Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hitting the Bars, right first on the mic, in a dark room if you're watching on YouTube at an awkward angle, but we're getting the video done, is Keltie. And beside me virtually is the beautiful, amazing, stunning Sav. I was thinking of another afternoon. How's it going?
Yeah. I thought you said it was chuggy to introduce ourselves.
It was, but then someone in the comments, yes, we read your comments, said it's good to introduce ourselves so people know whose voice is who. So comment, let us know down again. Is it chuggy? Is it not? We need mention if you're Gen Z or mention if you're a millennial, if you find it chuggy or not.
I honestly don't ever pay attention. Yeah, I don't pay attention to anybody's, like, the podcast I listen to, I couldn't tell you if they introduce themselves. Like, I do not pay attention to that. So maybe that's like everybody else.
Yeah, maybe that's just an us problem. Maybe we're way overthinking it. Is anyone else a chronic overthinker?
Yes.
'Tis the season of overthinking.
Tis the damn season, as Taylor would say. Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It's a song reference for those, if you know, you know.
I love it. Is it like, I feel we're just about to enter in all the holiday parties, family, friends, get-togethers, people you haven't seen in a year, you say something, and then you both leave the conversation being like, oh, was I awkward? Was I weird? Do you think they'll find that weird? And we're all thinking it.
Oh, yes, 100%. Whenever I go, like, this recently happened for Michael's, work event in Cabo. I would, leave being like, did I say something weird? Maybe they think this is weird. Like, we all overthink that. And honestly, I have not had a Christmas where, I've gotten together with family I haven't seen in a few years. Just because, it's usually my parents and I. But if I did, I think I would think that way.
At least we're all thinking it.
Mm-hmm. For your Christmas,
Family,
do you
friends.
get together with, whose side do you get together with? Is it all your family? What is it like?
So it used to be, I feel, if it was one thing I'm blessed about my childhood, it wasn't perfect, but something that I'm so thankful for, I did have, the big Christmas Thanksgivings. And, that's what, all 4 extended families came together. It was, 20 kids. It was mayhem. It was shenanigans, and it was great. And I loved it. But about, 6 years ago, it became quite sad. To be honest, we're all half the people have grown up, no one's living here, and we're just kind of the rough stragglers that could make it. So we disband that. So it's no longer the big family thing, which is sad, but it's moving on to new traditions. And I guess my new tradition is I have a friends miss every year, either a couple days before, a couple days after with my core group of friends. And then I usually celebrate Christmas with my mom, brother, stepdad on my brother's birthday, and then I actually now go to Sweden for Christmas and New Year's, and that's kind of the new tradition. So because Megs unfortunately can't come to me ever until his career is done, so I got to go to him. But yeah, so it's a little unconventional, but it's new traditions. How about you?
Oh, I love that. I mean, aren't we all kind of unconventional? Being conventional is overrated. I would tell myself that all the time when I was a child, because I don't know, with my friend group, I was the only one that had divorced parents. So I was the weirdo of that group, that it was either I would, and anyone that has, divorced parents, I'm sure could understand, where you would do half and half, which is exhausting. It's
yeah.
One year I think I woke up at my mom's, drove to my dad's for breakfast, went back to my mom's and drove back to my dad's for dinner. And I was never again. So then one year
tough.
I made them have it together. And they're very cordial. They don't mind. So,
yeah,
but that was even weird. And before, my mom used to be a nurse, so she always worked. So on those times I would go with my dad's family. So that's why, I don't know, holidays just aren't really big in my family, I think, because of that.
Yeah.
But I've had my dad for Thanksgiving the past couple years, and I guess next year he'll host it in Arizona. But usually, when we lived in California, we would just drive down to my dad's and have it in Arizona because it was easy to get to him, and I always loved, visiting my parents during that time of year. But yeah, my poor mom, she's now a flight attendant, and she still works on Christmas because, you get time and a half. So for her, we've never really had Christmas, so we always did our own Christmas, whether it was after or before, It's at the end of the day, it's just a day, and you can celebrate at any point.
Exactly. That's even now, for example, I celebrate Christmas on the 16th with my family. And in Sweden, they don't celebrate on the 25th. They celebrate on the 24th. So it's usually kind of weird that, in Megs, they always play on the 26th. So usually 25th is a travel day. So it is a little weird that, I fly to spend Christmas with him, but I actually spend Christmas alone. But it works out that, the time zone difference, that it's, Christmas Eve with my family. So, or Christmas morning with my family. I can spend with them, and I'm just like alone in Sweden when he's on the road. So it's unconventional.
Yeah, I like it though. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's like what works for you at the end of the day. And I used to be so jealous of like the cookie cutter families, and if you have that, you're blessed, right? Like you are so lucky.
Oh, yeah.
But I just never really had that growing up. Like once my parents split. So it was kind of like I guess maybe they trained it to me of being like, it's just a day. That way I didn't feel sad that I like couldn't have the classic cookie cutter Christmas that most people do.
Oh, yeah. Because even like just a different perspective of divorced parents is like, I grew up with a cookie cutter and then we got it stripped away. And that was be thankful what you have because then it was gone. And especially I was like older, but my brother was younger. And just that like, Christmas is ruined. You ruined Christmas. You took this family apart. there was a bit of that for a few years. And there was a bit of like, for example, being like, when do we see Dad? I guess we'll go get coffee with him. So now I just get coffee with my dad on Christmas. And it's like, okay, nice, peace. I'm going to go have actual Christmas with the rest of the family. Like it's just learning. And now it's like, now I'm kind of at the same place as you. I was like, it's just a day as long as I see family. So
yeah. Also, I kind of like leading up to Christmas. That's my favorite time.
Fully.
It's fun. It's magical. The day, Christmas Day, it kind of like once you open all the presents, it dies down.
I think the perfect trick is to start celebrating Christmas early enough that you don't hate Christmas before Christmas, but you hate Christmas by 2 p.m. on the 25th.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you don't want any more peppermint flavored things. You're over eggnog. But like enjoy it up to that point, but don't max out before like the 19th. But that's the trick. By like, so you're like Boxing Day, you're like, if I see or hear another Christmas Carol or Mariah Carey, I'm going to rip my hair out. That's the trick.
Yes. Also, Mariah Carey is just thriving right now. I watched the Macy's Day Parade and she got to like open for Santa Claus and like she is that person that claims Christmas, you know?
Yeah, she is. Did you hear about, I think the Toast talked about it?
The lawsuit?
Of her like trying to be, yeah, like she's trying to claim that she's the queen of Christmas, and like she legally wanted to change her name or business, but then there's actually another musician I never heard of this other person, unfortunately, and I'm just butchering this off another podcast, but they legally have like Queen Christmas is their name.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I do think it's a little like, calm down. You're not actually the Queen of Christmas personally, but it's a little ego is getting in the way. Like you're Mariah Carey, like you make so much money off Christmas, you do shows, like calm down, who cares? But maybe that, she hit the top and she's like, this is what I have left to accomplish.
I will say no one's gone and talked about Mariah Carey and be like, wow, look how like, quiet and humble she is. No one said that about Mariah Carey. So honestly, it's pretty on brand to be like, no, I'm Queen of Christmas and everyone bows down till I do it. Like that's kind of what we love about Mariah Carey is the diva. She's on brand. So you know what? I'm kind of here for it.
That's true. Also, if anyone has Disney Plus, they have the Santa Clauses right now, and it's Tim Allen. It's the original cast from the Santa Claus, which is my favorite Christmas movie ever. And it's like basically a storyline. It's a series. And they're back, and he's tired of being Santa Claus at like after 28 years. He's like 65. And his wife is still the most beautiful woman ever. And like you get to see Charlie, his son's in it, Bernard's in it, and it's like him wanting to retire. So it's really good. 10 out of 10 recommend. We were watching it with my parents.
Oh my God. Okay, that gives me an idea because we will be doing a Christmas episode. So we don't want to get you guys, but just as a hint, we should do and talk about like our favorite holiday like Christmas movies and like rank them. We should, because I was about to like mention some, but I was like, I was going to say my mom, we have a family tradition on the 24th with a holiday movie, and my mom tried to make it cooler. So I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. It's a pretty funny story, so we might have to talk about that.
Yeah, I like that.
Our Christmas special.
Yeah, we'll have everybody submit. It'll be a good time. Everyone has some interesting Christmas stories, needless to say, about their lives. Always.
I'll just say mine involves edibles.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to hear.
And it's not what you think. It's not what you think. So that's just a little cliffhanger for y'all.
Okay. I'm excited for this Christmas special. With that being said, should we jump into this year's? Or not this year's, this episode?
Yeah, I will, but just as a quick disclaimer, I live in Vancouver and edibles are legal.
There you go. Okay.
So
just so you don't get your mom in trouble.
Right. Just gotta clarify. I'm in Canada. But yes, let's hop into this week's episode. You had the idea, and I think it's a good one, of influencing, YouTubing, content creator. There's many terms that people want to identify on this online platforms, but we just thought it'd be fun. We both come from different sides of the influencing spectrum, but just kind of open the floodgates of what it's really like being an influencer.
Yeah, I think people are curious about it. I mean, you and I both like, there's those OGs that like just I fell into it. Like there had never been influencers before them. Where you and I came in where I loved fitness influencers before. So like to me I was like that would be the coolest job, but how does one get that? Like how does one get the courage to even do that? So I think it's cool because I think a lot of girls, I always get messages on, I want to share more of my life, not necessarily want to be an influencer, but they're like, I just want to share my life more. What would you recommend? Or they want to have a page that inspires people. So we figured why not go in the nitty gritty of like the pros and the cons and just kind of answer questions that you guys had in general to our best ability.
Exactly. I will say that kind of one thing. Do you believe this? I think there's like 3 segments of influencing. There's the OGs that started YouTube, Instagram before and it was kind of weird. You know what I mean? That the term influencer wasn't thing. There was no money. Just like posting anything curated was weird. Then there became like the next. People were like taking it seriously, but like it wasn't a serious job. There was no income. Maybe you might make a little bit. And then now there's the third that people fully know you can make this a career. So that'll be interesting. We can talk about throughout this, but just the 3 different segments of influencing and why you at the core of why you do it.
Yeah, I love it. Let's jump in.
Okay, number 1, I'm going to just start with the heavy hitter, just so you guys know we're not keeping a DL. We're going to tell you the real scoop. Does it provide you enough money or income?
Does it? Is that what you just asked?
Yeah, that was the question submitted by Amanda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of the times where I see people, they want to do it full time, but they don't necessarily ramp up or like make sure their ducks are in a row. I think there's a difference between people that could have millions of followers, but maybe they don't monetize, maybe they don't work with brands or whatever it may be. So then they probably couldn't, and they keep their day job or whatever it may be because they cannot provide enough money with that because they're not trying to monetize, where there's some that could be a micro influencer and do the best. Yeah. So there's definitely a broad spectrum of it, but absolutely, I think so. What do you think?
I think people have a misconception of like how much money people make.
Yeah.
And one of 2 things. I think people just think it's black or white. I think people think you're not making money or you're rich. And I don't think people realize, I'm just going to say some rough numbers. It really is depending on your industry, but like 0 on YouTube, 0 to 100,000 subscribers, you're like maybe making some money here, getting a bit more free product. You're just still trying to make it. I'd say once you hit the like 100,000 to 1 million, I would say consider those creators like a small business. Like some of them may make into the 6 figures, but they're probably not personally taking home 6 figures. They might have editors, they have business expenses. So just like, a small jeweler might be a 6-figure business, but the owner is probably making like 50K kind of thing after everything's taken away. Now, some of those are smart and they make businesses and they make a lot of money off those businesses, and that's different. But I'm just talking like pure creator. We're not talking businesses. But yeah, I will say just being in the YouTube world, once you're over that 1 million hurdle, you are doing, unless you're really stuck at your finances, you're financially very well off.
Yes.
That's the kind of, I think I just want to familiarize that. Like I think there's a lot of creators, I hear that all the time. Like, oh, you're rich. I'm like, they do well, but like not really. They're still like struggling. Like they're not consistent. It's just like a regular small business at that point.
Totally. And even on the spectrum of Instagram, it's not even that black and white because it totally depends on your demographic, the engagement, and like I've just heard of some people that have millions and they don't necessarily want to monetize because, ads on Instagram used to be really popular back in the day, where now it's not necessarily, it's more like sponsorships and things like that. So it's really like, it's not easy to gauge that unless they have their own, business, if it's, fitness program, whatever it may be. But Instagram itself is not going to pay you out. Like where YouTube,
no.
You do get money from your ads.
Yes. So that's also another thing. You make money. You see those little ads at the beginning, middle, end of a YouTube that's from YouTube. We get a percent. I believe it's a 50-50 split. And then it also depends. Like, I will give an example. If you're selling toys, you're a toy channel, and it's like around Christmas time, your costs of ads are through the roof. You're going to make a lot more versus like a really niche YouTuber who like advertisers don't really know who's going to be in front of it. So there is like a little bit of like a spectrum, but yeah, you will make it just from AdSense. And then you get sponsorships as well. Those are the kind of main money income generators.
Instagram, did you know though, you could get paid off Reels?
I've heard that. Have you seen, have you gotten some?
Yeah, I did it one time. It's weird.
Crazy.
You have to resubmit every month. And the more views you get, the more money you get. Honestly, I can't remember how much it even was. This was like, Nona had showed me it. Like, this was over 6 months ago, and then I just never resubmitted for it because I was nervous it would mess with like organic reach. But I have met some creators that do get paid well off of that. I think there's a cap.
Crazy.
I think it's like 10,000 or 7,000. Those are people that are getting millions of, views on their reels. But Instagram was trying to entice them to like, I think just stay on the platform because of TikTok, that they were like, hey, we'll throw some money your way if your reels do well.
I will say I did get approved for that, and like they keep telling me submit like and do that, but then as soon as I do it, they're like, oh, just kidding, you're Canadian. We can't, like, you have to have like an American bank account. So I'm like, thanks for just saying, oh, we'll pay you, and then just be like, just kidding. No.
Yeah.
I'm like, rude.
Yeah.
Rude. Speaking of money, job. How did you make the leap from working a traditional job into influencing? How about you?
Okay, well, my job, I had a 9-to-5 sales job, and I personally really enjoyed it because it taught me how to speak confidently and work, I guess, with a lot of adults because I was really young. I had just gotten out of college. And I'm trying to think. I started, posting online, and I really enjoyed it. And I worked with a lot of older people, and they kind of made fun of me. They thought it was weird, especially because, in fitness, you're wearing a sports bra and shorts. So it was like super revealing, and like nobody really did that back then. And I would tell them, like, just you wait. I'm going to quit this job I don't like and work for myself. And they would just make fun of it. And I was like, whatever. And it was remote. So what I did is I'd wake up 4 or 5 a.m., edit, maybe film throughout the day, like what I eat, whatever it may be. I would film my workouts on Sundays, and Michael would help me. And I did that for about like a year and a half. And then I did a pros and cons list and like basically presented it to Michael and Bentley. Even though it was my choice, I wanted to have another outsider perspective and kind of said, here's my pros, here's my cons if I quit this job. And at the end of the day, once I did that PowerPoint, I was like, I'm quitting. Like, I want to, take a chance on me. I want to spend more time working on what I love, and it was going to open up more doors and be able to travel, where my job, I had to work a lot because it's sales and you have to grind. Otherwise, you're not going to do well, right? You usually have a shitty salary, but you make good commission if you can perform. So yeah, I think after a year and a half, that's when I decided to quit it. And I mean, my manager, he was always incredibly supportive. He never made fun of it. So he wasn't shocked. He could tell I was kind of dying out. I mean, I was selling, like tchotchkes and shirts and things like that to tech, which I did like. I liked it a lot because I love art and I loved talking to people. But at the end of the day, I just thought I could do better if I dedicated my time elsewhere instead of working for somebody else. How did you?
Fully. First of all, I love your approach of just like the pros and cons list. Like, that's so smart. And yours is such like a thoughtful way of like, okay, I've got my full-time job. This is my side hustle. I'm going to make it work until it makes more sense to do it full-time. Because I will say my number one recommendation, if you're someone, I was like, do it on the side, do it until maybe you see the income is close. And then, quit your mech son or do a big savings from your main job that it can support you for a few months. So that's like safety Keltie coming in. But guess what?
Yes.
That's not the advice I gave myself. I'm more of a risk taker, kind of dive in head first. So for me, the jobs I had leading up, after school, I was a manager for some fitness studios, like multiple ones. And I became marketing manager for a bunch of brands. And then I was working on my own as like a personal trainer. And then I was also doing marketing for a lot of small businesses in Edmonton. So I was kind of definitely in that world, just trying to figure it out. And when I moved, I was actually in Halifax, moved back to Edmonton and was like, let's figure out what I want to do with my life that I actually want to do instead of just a paycheck. And I really was falling more and more in love with YouTube. I was kind of just doing it for fun. And then I decided, I went to Toronto and was like, you know what? It's really hard to make it here in Edmonton. I'm going to risk it. So what I told myself, I was like, because there's one of two ways. You can save up enough to quit, or and then, live off that for a little bit. Or you can do what I did, is like, I'm going to pick up a job, because I used to bartend before. I was like, I'm going to get back into bartending, and bartending will support me, and I'm going to devote 6 months of my life to this. And if I can't make this work in 6 months, because I heard that on a podcast once, like a podcast about becoming a YouTuber, and the guy had mentioned, he's like, I just devoted 6 months of my life, make it happen. And I did. And so I moved to Toronto in September, and I was like, kind of gave myself 6 months. I ate potatoes and meat sauce from the dollar store, saved every penny I could, put it all back into the channel, and just worked weekends, didn't sleep, and just to pay the bills until I started getting traction on YouTube. And then I kept the bartending job until the bartending job got in the way of me taking money from YouTube sponsorships. And then it was a leap. Honestly, I did do it a little risky. If I was financially more safe, I would have done it for like 3 more months. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to trust myself, trust my gut. And, I haven't had to go back to bartending. It's been 3.5 years since then. So
I love that.
Hopefully not anytime soon. But, either way, it can work. I think it just depends on, like, some people would not do well in, like, a risky situation like that. Yeah. But for me, if I do that, I kind of need that little fire under my butt. I think that just depends on the person.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a cool story, especially you grinding, and it's not glamorous in the beginning. I think there are, don't get me wrong, some people that blow up immediately, and that's lucky, but a lot of people, they, are strategic, or they really try to plan it, because sometimes I think influencers, it looks effortless. Like, they're just, one day they just start posting and it blows up, and like that's just their life, and they get to sleep in and edit or whatever. And I don't think that's always the case. I think it is, you're working extremely hard to kind of break this algorithm of like, hey, how can I get more views? How can I make this my full-time job? So I think that's awesome.
And I think we get a lot of misconceptions, because we see people like, we'll use Emma Chamberlain, for example, and she's just like effortless. And she's like, she just talks to a camera and edits. And like, why can't I do that? And she sleeps in and talks to her acne, and it seems, but we don't see that, like, all the things that happened to make Emma, like what created her personality, her unique style, her editing, all that leads. So it does seem organic and random, and also you just can't assume you're that 0.00001%. I think a lot of us see YouTubers and Instagrammers that blow up for just taking a selfie a day.
Totally.
And it could be that they're beautiful, they live in a cool location, timing, but I think you just can't assume that and do like the bare minimum. I hate to say it now. You have to like have a niche, have something you're passionate about, work hard on a skill. And it's a lot better to like work on perfecting a skill, or your editing, or your self online, or your personality, versus not curating your personality, but you know what I mean, like your entertaining comedy, whatever it is, versus just being like, oh, I'm just going to keep posting, random stuff and hope it works out. It could, but I think your skills are better off developing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and a last note, and this goes for anybody just in general that wants, to maybe quit their day job and do whatever it is that they're passionate about. I notice you will always find cons. You will always say, well, if I stick it out, I can get this much, or this security, or insurance. And they're, oh my gosh, they'll always have that classic, like, what are you going to do about your insurance from your, your family? But you'll always have that con. But like, sometimes life is too short, and it does come down to like, if it's taking away from that business.
Oh, fully. That's such a good way to look at it. There's no perfect job out there. There isn't. There's cons to everything. And we'll probably get into some of the cons in a little bit throughout this podcast. Well, here's one. Well, maybe it doesn't seem like a con until you really think about it. How do you make your own schedule? How do you make your own schedule to stay focused and productive? Because I think that's the one thing people don't realize. Tell us, how do you do that?
Yeah. My schedule, well, honestly, Michael and I kind of feed off of each other. So, usually we'll work a classic, like we'll get up early, and then we'll do like, say 6:30 to 9:10 we're working, or maybe like we'll go to the gym. I always try and like build out my day, and like part of going to the gym, sometimes I'm filming, so sometimes it's part of work. And then sometimes I don't want to film, and sometimes I just need it as a release. So like I try and like in the morning plan out what I'm going to do. I look at my calendar because sometimes I have meetings, especially with my new program girls. So I have a responsibility there to make sure I'm, home in a quiet space. But it did take me a while to like build my own routine just because our job is what we love, and it's not necessarily always sitting down and working on data or always working on numbers, whatever it is. It's like filming, and then it's, getting together with these people for a collaboration, or maybe filming a haul or whatever it is that you kind of have to plan it through. So I feel like it can be chaotic some days, but if you get like a good routine of like, I'll be like, okay, for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to brainstorm some YouTube video ideas, or I'm going to brainstorm what I want to post on my page. Then that'll help me be a bit more organized. What about you?
I am so structured. Everyone's about to be like, what? Like, because I realize I just try to admire. I'm really obsessed with other people's routines. I've always been like that, just like how to optimize, get more productive. That's just been me since I was younger. And all the artists, musicians, and writers that I really admired treated their creativity like a muscle instead of just being like, because I think a lot of creatives, and I'm guilty of that too, being like, no, I have to be in the right mindset and like everything has to come to me and I'm not in the mood. And I realized like you can tell yourself that about anything. Like how many times I've not been in the mood, and how many times have you not been into a mood to go to the gym? You go to the gym and it's your best workout ever. You also have to do that with a creative job. And I would say like I lean towards more creative. There's a lot of people in this career that are very analytical in business. So I'm saying this is like a pure creative, I guess. So like for me, I do it like a job. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm at the gym at 7 a.m. every day because that forces me to get to work at 9 a.m. if I'm up at those times. So like I use the gym as a way to get me out of the house, because I used to not. Like I used to kind of be like, oh, and then I can wait half an hour and another half an hour, and then before I know it's 10:30, and then I'm actually hungry for lunch. And so I just need that gym as kind of the foundation to getting me to there on time. And then I do the 9 to 1. I sit down and I force myself to, whether Mondays I script write, Tuesdays I film, Wednesday I film like other stuff, so that's usually like my vertical videos, anything I missed, Thursdays editing, Fridays editing. I do my heaviest things in the morning that like take, like I think of my creativity like a muscle. Like it is exhausting and I have to put it to work, and then I go take a midday break and go on a walk, get some food, rejuvenate myself. And then the afternoon is when I will respond to like emails, all the stuff that like doesn't take as much creative willpower. And then usually by the end of the day I have like a second wind that I can usually do stuff like music or more editing. And I try to be out of the office at 5. I just recently moved into an office, so that's been really nice. I will say though, as much as I like to say I'm done at 5, just like a small business, things happen, emergencies happen. I know it was really funny. The first day in the office, I left my laptop at 5. Like I was like, closing it, I'm gonna go, I'm not gonna have my laptop at home, I'm going home. Got home at 5:30, emergency, I had to run back to the office, and I was here till 10. So like that is the reality of it.
Yeah.
So that is, as much as we like it, but I just, for me, routine, and I prefer to do that and then take a week off whenever I want. Versus like I think some people are on the idea of like, oh, I'm just not going to film on Friday, and I think that depends on the person. Like I think you would fall into a bit more of like, today this is what I feel like, I'm going to adjust it weekly, and I'm more of like a every 3 months I just need to step away, close the routine, rejuvenate myself, and then get back into it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with the new year, I want to try and structure it a little bit more, try it your way, because I'm very type B when it comes to that kind of thing, where I'll be like, okay, I need to prioritize, because I feel like we're juggling 20 different things. And so I'll be like, oh, okay, this, today I need to get this done. But I do find when I'm most productive is when I get up on time, I go to the gym in the morning so it doesn't like dwell on it. I'm not thinking about it. And I'll also be at the gym and I'll like, pound out a couple videos or ideas, whatever it may be. And I just like love when you do structure it to being like these 20 minutes is dedicated to editing, whatever it may be. That way it is, like you said, treated as like a proper job of like, at the end of the day, if you don't do this, you don't produce it, it's gonna fail, essentially. That's what, like, in my mind, that's what I think is like, no one else is doing it for me. I gotta do it all myself.
Yeah. We're going to be doing some New Year's resolution-esque videos in January. Of course, I mean podcast. Well, I'm sure we will on YouTube, but I'm going to hold you accountable to that. I'm like, hey, New Year.
I like it. Yes.
We're going to cosplay a 9 to 5. That's what I've been saying. I'm cosplaying 9 to 5. So I'm still on that. Like, I'm at the gym at Equinox with the other girls who are going to their corporate jobs. I'm like, I'm going to go to my corporate job, and then I am the accountant and the janitor and also the CEO and the intern all in one.
Oh my gosh, right? That's literally how I feel with my life. I'm like, and I do this and this and this. Oh, and this. Oh, and now this one again.
And that's another thing. You realize you have to learn all the different things. It's not like, oh, you just create a video and do it. You have to be the accountant, bookkeeper, janitor, the set designer, producer, like a YouTuber. And depending on the form of Instagram, because there's just a lot of different ways, you hold many caps. Like you, for example, you're an Instagrammer, but I would consider you more of like a businesswoman. Like obviously you have a great Instagram in that, but like your foundation, I feel like I'd say like that's so admirable about you is like businesswoman and how you view it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, because I also want it to be sustainable. And you just, with this career, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm very,
that's
like,
the worst part.
Realistic with that portion of it, you know?
I guess this isn't even really a question, but I think if we were to say the con, I'd say that one of the number one cons is not that you can, like, blame the algorithm, but you just don't know. You don't know what the people are going to want. You don't know what the algorithm's going to want. You can guess and you can study as much as you can. But like you're kind of every day just like praying to the wind and hoping versus It's not like every day you come in and it's like all you have to do is type in 1,000 words. There's none of that. It's like, we'll see what Google decides to place you at this week.
Yes, absolutely. That is one of the worst things about this job. Is you'll do really, really well and you'll have this high of that and then you'll do really poorly and your world will feel like it's crashing and you're like, do people not like me? And it's like, it's never that. It's always an algorithm and things are changing. It's not like what it used to be back in the day. But I think that is one of my number one cons is like my mood can get affected very easily by that.
Oh, so much. That is the worst part because then it goes usually in like seasons. And I know for me, like I'll have a high season, like all my videos are performing great. Everyone's loving them. I'm like, I can do no wrong. I understand the people. I understand the algorithm. And then I get my worst performing video and then it's like 3 in a row. And I was like, oh, there, my career's over. I'm done. And like that, I've repeated that cycle probably 30 times and still every time I convince I've made it and every time I'm convinced I've been canceled. And I never learn. Right now, I just never learned. That's just the cycle.
But that's the trick. That's why some people do well is they're relentless. Because I've seen some people that have like, you know, maybe they've taken a break. Maybe they seem like they're not into it. And then it seems like they got a well-needed rest almost. And then they kind of share a different side of their personality or whatever it may be. And they do really well. And I come back to it and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're crushing it. And like their content's completely different. And I think that's great.
This is actually the perfect segue of the next question is, do you have a lot of downtime?
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of taking breaks.
No. I mean, I don't ever feel, literally my parents are like, see me constantly working even when I visit them. But that's because I feel like, I mean, you know this, Keltie, that I'm someone that can't let go of my stuff. So I like am in charge of all of my things. And I did have a management group for a while and it just ended up not working out after a while. And so then I took over, you know, the emails again and things like that. So I feel like I don't have a lot of downtime, but I can if I am very like productive and delegate my time wisely, then I'll have some downtime, you know, because I mean, part of it is working out and things like that. And to me, that's downtime. I enjoy that. I love that. I'm not going to say it's work because like, I think I don't want to view that as work. I want it to view it as play and something I enjoy.
Yeah. That's the tough part, even like for myself, is like how much downtime and how much is work that you just enjoy doing. Like, for example, I wake up at 5 every morning. The first hour is writing. It's planning and script writing and all that. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I would do this any day. But then I was like, no, you're writing a script. You're writing. Like, that's part of your job. And then, like, you know, working out, same idea. I'm always videoing it. Or even the days I don't video, it's part of a challenge. And it's like, well, I'd still work out anyway. So it's those couple hours are kind of confusing if those are downtime. And then I'm trying to get better at like 6 o'clock onwards. I turn off the work phone, turn off the emails. But like the reality is you just got to get stuff done. So most days even if I leave the office at 5, like last night, I left the office here at 5:30 and I filmed for 2 hours when I got home. Yeah. Because I just needed I need to film dinner. And that was just the reality. And like downtime is very subjective. Because, like, for example, I'm really blessed. I travel a lot and I get to travel when I work. But usually because I travel, you know, you can't really work when you're traveling. And so on, like, the actual travel day. So that means my weekends, I try and take half Saturdays and Sundays off. But usually when I travel, I have to work the Saturday, Sunday because I was like, I traveled on Wednesday. So I get the flexibility to take downtime. But usually that means you have to make up for it. And I'm trying, I think my goal is to eventually take like 2 to 3 weeks off in December, January, and like take all of July off is my eventual goal, and view YouTube and everything as like seasons. And like I think the viewer takes a break, I come back with better quality content. People are not really watching in July, they're out partying and whatnot. So my eventual goal, but like we talked about before, the algorithm, it's scary taking time off. You're like, if I take off time, will like the algorithm be like, oh yeah, she's like, it's not even like the people you're scared. I know it sounds, not to blame the algorithm, but you don't know if the algorithm like will just plop someone else in your place. And there's always that what if taking time off.
Oh yeah, there's always someone that's gonna be fighting for it, you know.
Oh, this also kind of relates a little bit of downtime, but I'm interested to hear your side of this. What do you do when you need time away from creating content, when it just gets to be too much?
I literally leave my phone and I go away. Like in the sense of I'll, go for a walk, I'll go to a friend's house, whatever it is, just constant do not disturb. Or I'll, plan a time to see my family. That's like for me, I do not go on my phone when I'm with my family. Like I want it to be family time, so I'll, make sure I have content prepped because I do like to be consistent. But, like, if it feels too much, I, like, sit down, have a little me time, plan, vacation to see family, or just ghost my phone for a little bit, which I think is okay.
Yeah, need that. Fully.
What do you do?
Agree with that? Well, you probably know I've been very vocal that the best purchase I've ever made is the 2 phones. So I do have a personal phone that just has 10 people's numbers. It has no social media, because the reality is, as much as I wish I could just like go without a phone, I was like, I'm in a long distance relationship. So, you know what I mean? Like it was always kind of that contrast of like half our relationship is via the phone. So on Saturdays around 5 p.m. until Monday at 5 a.m., I turn off my work phone. I'll usually end up just checking it once just in case there's an emergency. But I think that's the best bet, is just literally putting it away and just being Keltie, not being a YouTuber, not being someone who works, just like be with my friends and family, and remember that being like a daughter, girlfriend, and friend is the most important thing. And then the irony is those days are always the days I come out with my best idea. So I find the irony is usually when you step away from what you're creating and just go live life and rejuvenate yourself, it just like, I don't know what it is, just that's how the universe and energy or whatever you believe in works. So I just like, your brain just like connects it all. So I think stepping away from it allows you to actually be better at it.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. It's like we all, like you said, it's a muscle and you need a break. And a lot of people, think about holiday breaks. That means nothing to us. Like in the sense of, you don't clock out necessarily. So it is nice when you can force yourself to do that. And even I know with like my wedding, I'm like, I'll ask my friends to take it. But like, I don't want to be present with, or I don't want to be on my phone. I want to be present is what I'm saying. So like even the bachelorette party, I feel like everyone else was taking photos. I took a few here and there, but for the most part, I just kind of like do not disturb my phone and was just like,
as you should.
I want to chill. Yeah, right? Yeah. Where there are there are some content creators that like, they're literally filming their day 24/7. And I'm just like, I don't know how. Like, how do you not take a break or just like want to be left alone for a little bit?
And I think it all comes down to, and this would be a thing if you're someone who wants to get into it, like what is your why? And I don't want to come off as like my personal beliefs of my why between YouTube is right. I don't want to come off as like you're wrong if you believe it. But like I've never viewed YouTube as like documenting every second of my life for the world to see. I don't think I live an interesting enough life. I think you have to be like a Kylie Jenner kind of level to have that kind of interesting of a life. And some people just like it. Like that's for whatever reason. But I've always liked the idea of entertaining. I know like you would love the idea of like bringing value to people, and so it's kind of like, if you're not doing that, why document it? Just go live in your life, you know what I mean? And separating the two, like, is this me posting this actually going to help anyone, or is this just me feeding my own ego? And I've been guilty of that. I've just posted because I want everyone to know I'm here, and I was like, does that help anyone? I was like, then don't post it, just live in the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I used to share a lot more of my life when I first started, and I think a lot of us do this. When you first start, you're like, oh, people like seeing this. Okay. Like you hear it helps them. You're like, oh, absolutely. And then you get burned. And whether it's something mean whether it's a forum, whatever it is. And then you're kind of like, oh, wait, I don't have boundaries anymore. Like, I don't set proper boundaries when I share all of my life. So, and this could be also getting older, but my content, I'm just so different from what I used to be because I needed a boundary. Otherwise, I would go insane because I was going insane when I was sharing my life so publicly that I was even example of Michael. I never share Michael. I mean, he'll be in a photo, he'll be in a video. People think we break up all the time. And I'm like, I just needed that to be my safe space. Yep. And at the end of the day, it matters the most if I'm okay, And as much as I'd like to share it, if I don't feel the need to do that, I'm not going to. It's going to make me feel safe, and I don't feel like I have to be constantly on my phone around him or filming something he's gonna do, nothing wrong if you do film your partner, but it did not work well for my mental health, especially when people would make comments. I was kind of like, wait, what does this even have to do with fitness? I think I stepped too far, and I had to learn, which I think a lot of us do that. And then we learn.
Oh, yeah.
And some people are more open, and that's okay, and some it doesn't bother them. But for me, it bothered me, so I had to do it.
And I guess also just realizing even what I said at the beginning, the 3 segments of influencing, when it just came from no one knew what it was, everyone knew what it was, but it wasn't a job, and now it's viewed as a bit more of a job. If you're someone who wants to get into it, of course, if you're one of those people who just, for whatever reason, some people are built like that, they just want to share with the world and they're no filter and just want to document every single thing, go for it. But I would caution against, and I think if you really want to make this longevity and you don't want to get burned out, you should view it as a job. And I don't think your life should be your job, if that makes sense. Because suddenly if you're documenting everything, every part of your life is your career, whether it be your hormones, what you eat, how you sleep, your relationship, all these personal things that do you really want to subject the internet to their opinions? And that you have to think, and this took me a long time to break, of separating what am I doing for content and what am I just doing for my life, and it can get really murky. And I think you really the earlier you can separate, this is my job, this is my niche, this is how I'm helping people, and this is just me as a human, the earlier you can separate those and think of one as education, entertainment, the better your longevity will be, because then you can turn it off, you can turn it on, and when you're working versus I think what happens to everyone, 9 p.m. you're sitting in the bed with your boyfriend, really lovey cutie moment, and you should just be savoring the serotonin in this moment, but it would be pretty cute for the internet, and then that you just want to avoid ever that happening. And I think if you can just separate those two, that's going to help you a lot in the long run.
I agree. Okay, I would like to hear your opinion on this, and yes. I'd be interested on what our listeners think. So I love these TikToks where, especially that song right now that's by Birdie, that's Keep Your Head Up. It's hold tight, dun, dun. And at first it's someone crying, and then it's they broke up, or something happened in their life, they lost themselves, and the song Birdie is they're coming back to life, they just took time to fix themselves. I am always so curious, when do you pull out the phone when you're bawling your eyes out and recording yourself? Because when I cry, I'm so private about my emotions that I do not want that recorded. So I'm I like it because I love to see their growth, but I'm when did you do that? And why did you record yourself bawling? I've seen some girls just hysterically bawling, and I'm I don't think I could even watch that video, or film it. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm very torn on this one because I think I've been on all sides, just being a YouTuber especially. I've cried a lot on camera, but more often when I've cried, it's just because I'm talking to the camera and then the emotions come out. Yeah. So sometimes that could happen. You're just telling a story and you're just I'm just trying to connect with the audience, tell something, and then before I know it, I'm crying. And so I might cut it so it's just the crying part. So that can happen. That can be one thing. So I understand that. And that would kind of be the only time I've recorded. I think once I was in the middle of something and it was really related to a challenge and I was teary, and so I popped up my camera because I was in this moment I'm just going to document exactly how I feel. I might not publish it, I'm just going to document it so I have it, because I am someone who just loves to have video footage.
Fair. Yeah.
So sometimes you just have it and you're just thinking, and I think it just comes to intent. Some people, what I mean, they're they start crying, and there are probably some people out there who are this is going to make a great video, and I do something with it, or someone's I've also, I will say this, just real thought. I don't think, I hope that's not everyone's defense of like when you hit rock bottom to film it. Like just live in it. Don't think about the internet. Don't think of anything. But sometimes there is something beautiful of having captured your rock bottom and looking back at. Like I remember I was talking to my one friend, I won't say who, she went through a really big skincare journey, and kind of she was right in the middle of it, and she was talking, it was near the start, and I was like, take as many photos as you can right now. And she's like, I don't want to. I was like, trust me, I know it sucks, but you will get through this, and in 5 years, even if your skin's not perfect, you'll look back and you'll see. Because I do have a couple videos like that where I was just talking to the camera. I'll never publish them, but I have those photos, and you look back and you're like, oh, I overcame some hard things. So
totally,
if you want to publish it, good for you. But
it's fair. That's where I'm like, I'm not cry shaming them at all, because I like the videos and I like seeing the transformation. But I'm always curious in a sense of like fitness transformation. A lot of the times, you know, you'll take a picture, front angle, side angle, whatever it may be. So I'm always just curious, because in the moment I'm just not even at my phone, that I'm just like world is crashing, whatever it may be, that I just don't think to record it. But I'm not hating if people do. I'm just curious, what are their thoughts when they do it? Are they like, I want to document this? Because that's totally fair, and I could see myself doing that. But also maybe there's something in me that's like, I just don't know if my personality could like look back at that.
I think the reality is some people are evil and some people are pure. I think some people could have just been on Snapchat, they started crying. Some people could have been like, you know what, I want to document this slow po. And then there is some people who are like, oh, people love tears, engagement. And the reality is there's that it's going to totally depend on the person. And that's why like sometimes you're always, I think the consumers are smart now. Sometimes we're like, oh, you did this for attention. And other times it's like, wow, I'm so happy your growth. And the reality is we might not know someone's intention. And it could be anything. That's why there's not an answer. Yeah. It's so subjective.
Yeah. All right. What's the next question? Thanks for answering.
This is from the beautiful, amazing Paige. How did you/do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Ooh.
Right? Heavy.
I mean, it's always going to be there. I think in, honestly, any job you really have, because it's kind of connected to your self-esteem, self-confidence, and that always wavers. I don't think there's anybody that has perfect, you know. At least for me, it's correlated to that. But at the end of the day, like, you have to know that you are you, and like there was success for some reason, and you have to just trust yourself and what you want to share, and not get wrapped up into like what the internet wants you to share. But I don't know. I guess that's a hard one to answer, because you do always feel it, but you kind of just push it down, just like anything. You kind of have to, and prove to yourself that, you know, whatever your imposter syndrome is, that you're worthy of it, because you are. And I think everybody feels that way to some extent. I mean, I hope a heart surgeon doesn't feel that way, but we're not doing heart surgery, so if you think of it, they probably do. They probably get nervous.
Honestly, they probably do. They're probably like every once in a while sit back and be like, whoa, I'm a heart surgeon.
They're like,
you know what I mean?
Did I actually know what I just did? I think
honestly, they probably like,
no, I'm kidding.
There's probably a little, like, you'd be shocked what goes through people's minds when they're in a high-end career. I'm sure, like, occasionally they're just like, you know what, I haven't had enough food today. You know, as they're in the middle of surgery. Probably weird things are like, what are we having for dinner? Just little things.
How would you answer this one?
I guess I come from I'm someone who's was a chronic imposter syndrome and just trying to overcome it. But just listening to a lot of other podcasts, it made me realize that everybody has imposter syndrome. Everyone, like, that's just realizing that your parents don't know what they're doing. I think we're all guilty of that. We just look at someone older and more successful and they're like, oh, they know what they're doing. They might know more than you, but they don't know everything. And I think I realized success is like when hard work and luck cross paths. For the most part, like, if you just get really lucky but you didn't have the hard work beforehand, you're going to burn out really fast and you won't go anywhere. But the reality is most of successful people in any career, especially online, is like you put in the work, and all stars aligned. That it was the right season, people wanted that kind of content, it was the perfect mood, and it just takes off. And that's the reality, is it's a lot of luck. But the longevity comes from you did the work so you can maintain the luck. Yeah. And so I think my imposter syndrome I get over by just putting in the work, so I can kind of feel like I undeniably earned it. I think that's where imposter syndrome is like, oh, I didn't earn it. So I think if you just show up every day, it will just get, and you just put in the work and you leave every day being like, I did everything I possibly could, that's going to help you with imposter syndrome. I think if you're not doing everything you can, not saying there's people who put in more work than me and they have imposter syndrome. So it's not a direct correlation, but I think that's how you just slowly get over it, is just showing up for yourself every day and realizing luck is all part of the equation.
Yeah, I like it. Well said.
Yeah, that was a real, when you just realize everything's a bit of luck.
Yeah.
Where your parents, where you're born, all that kind of stuff. You just never know. You just never know. Oh, bless you.
Some ASMR right
there. Last submitted question. How did you get started? What specific actions, if any, got your career started?
How did we get started?
Yeah.
Like the story of what made us want to start posting, or...
I guess it's coming from someone who wants to do it. They've never done it. They've never posted. Like, just think right now, we'll do it. We'll just, a little case study. Someone, they just have an Instagram for their friends and family. Okay. They don't have a YouTube channel. They don't have TikTok, nothing. And they want to be an influencer / YouTuber. How did you get started / could apply to them?
Okay, yeah. So I think a lot of us have that fear at first where we're like, oh, I would love to do this. I think it'd be so fun. For me, I thought it would be a really fun career. I'd gotten into fitness and I was following a lot of fitness influencers. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. What a dream. Could never be me. And then I one day just felt a little inspired. And I also was living in Huntington Beach, and there was a lot of YouTubers, a lot of social media people, and I knew it could be a career. So I thought, okay, and I got enough courage to make a fitness account. I don't remember, Savvy Fitness, whatever it was. And my best friend, Maddie, who has been one of my longest best friends, she was like, oh my gosh, and like found it. And I was mortified because I thought nobody could find this, and I just wanted strangers to support me, which is like the irony when you don't want people to know, but they should be your biggest supporters, you know? Now, you know, they are my biggest supporters, but you're almost embarrassed. So I remember I deleted it right away. I don't even think, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you found that, Maddie. She was like, what? I think it's awesome. You should share it. And then maybe a month went by, and I just started posting on my page because I just knew that I wanted to do fitness and I wanted to share what I had learned because I had transformed my body and so many people had asked me how I did it. And I just like kept thinking back to like, of course I loved these fitness influencers, but I didn't have anybody that I could relate to specifically at that time. So for me, I was like, oh, if only people could show the more balanced viewpoint, or they were really big into meal prepping back then and things like that. And I wasn't. Yeah. I'm more chaotic. I'm more disorganized. And I just kept thinking like, I wonder if this would help somebody. And so that's just kind of when I started posting. And then, yeah, people made fun of me for sure. And you just kind of get over it. I didn't know if it would be successful. I didn't know. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to make this career. I just thought, why not try it? I had already moved from like living in Washington, so I had nothing to lose. Nobody knew me. So if I met somebody on the street and said, oh, I'm trying to do this, here's my account, what are they going to make fun of? Because they have seen that I've been posting fitness, the entire time they've known me. So for me, it was just like a passion and just trying to help somebody and not have them get stuck like I did. And like deal with all those heartaches. So that's kind of how I got started. And
I like it. I guess my piece of advice and like how I even started was I was just super inspired by YouTubers. I was like, I really want to make my own videos. Like, I don't know how to. I don't know what I want to talk about, but like I happen to be doing fitnessy things, so I'll document my fitness. But for me, I think my biggest thing was like for the first year or two, I just played around with it. I just tried to figure out, do I even like this? And the more I did it, the more I loved it. So if you're someone who's interested, I say you just got to try it. You won't know until you try it. Don't just keep putting it off until the right time. Because guess what? This is the best part. When you start out, no one's watching, so it doesn't really matter. So you might as well just enjoy it for the first little bit. Sometimes your friends and family are there, but I would just be open. And my biggest pet peeve is people who talk down to anyone who's trying something new. How'd you know if you like something if you don't try it? So you just embrace it. If someone makes fun of you about it, it's because they want to start something and they're not doing it and they're projecting. So like anytime I see someone starting, they're like, I can tell, I was like, oh, you really want to influence, like you're taking those kind of photos, you start a YouTube channel. I'm like, go for it. Because worst comes to worst, I've had friends like this, I won't call them out, who tried YouTube for a year. They really enjoyed it. And after a year, like I had one friend, she was like, honestly, I just don't really like being on camera. I think editing's fun. So now she's working for like a marketing social media business. So she edits. So like just playing around, she found out the part she was actually passionate about. So I think you have to play. And in terms of, like you said, people that matter will support you. The people that don't will not support you regardless. So don't live for people who don't matter. And also, here's a big piece of advice I would give. I think a lot of us are scared of being cringe. A lot of us are scared of posting a video and it come off cringy. Guess what? That never goes away. No matter how big you are. If you're Justin Bieber thinks baby is the cringiest thing of all time. I think any YouTube video I posted up until October 2022 is the cringiest thing on the face of the planet, because the reality is creating art, photos, video is a moment in time. You're capturing a moment in time. And once that moment of time is done, it's old. It's old news. It's no longer relevant. So it's cringy. So I think like realizing you're just capturing the moment. Like now I look back at like my old super cringy videos and I no longer like judge my artistic ability. I was like, that is what was in. I was doing what was in. Like, you know what I mean? I got to capture that. And in 30 years, I'll look back and show my kids. I was like, in 2019, Tom Brady's like diet was really in. So we used to talk about it. They'd be like, really? I was like, I know, it was a weird time. Just like YT, like all the old fashioned. So I think just realizing like embrace the cringe and just ignore people that are just going to try and pull you down. Yeah. I know that was a long spiel, but that's what I wish I had heard when I started.
Yeah. Also, always expect. You will always have the negative people, but if you think about it, always. You could be working in a, dental office and there's going to be someone that doesn't like you, thinks you're cringe, doesn't like your personality, so like you're going to have that backlash anywhere you work, anywhere you live, even family members. So it's like you might as well do what you want to do. And yeah, it does suck when like I read forums and I'm like, oh, like this sucks, like I don't really love that this is on the internet, that people are judging me. But at the same time, like I'm going to get judged by my family back home no matter what. So it's just kind of like, at least I love what I do. And like I reach people that it does change their lives. Like when I meet people, at events or whatever, like it literally makes me cry when I get home because I'm like, this is so cool that like this has impacted you a certain way, right? Like it's all you want at the end of the day.
Exactly. And just realize people will find something to hate on anything.
Oh, God,
This is the best example. I almost don't even want to share light to it, but we have to laugh. I posted this really heartwarming video this week. It was all about going on a run with your mom, embracing family time. Like, it was a very lovely video. Like, I cried editing. I was quite proud. Some people hated on me for, like putting my mother on a pedestal. Like, they're like, literally, I don't want to even say the exact comment, but they kind of tore me down for, like, promoting that moms are great. Like,
what?
Even that will show. I know. Like, I don't want to give any light to it because I was just like, we don't need this negativity. But that's how much level, like, people, it was like, call your mom. I was like, why are we giving so much light to mothers? I was like, we're canceling that now. Yeah. I was like, just realize if you can hate on, like, a mother-daughter having a moment, you can hate on anything.
Mm-hmm. Cancel culture.
Yeah, let's just as long as everyone's trying and being a bit better, that's all we ask.
Just live your life
the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. Don't live it for others. And on that, we should wrap up with we usually do a confession session, or we read a rating. So you can leave us a ideally 5-star rating on the Apple Store or Spotify, or slide into our DMs on Hitting the Bars. Leave us a funny bar gym story, but. Do you want to read off what we got submitted in our DMs today? I'm pretty proud of this. This is a milestone. This is pretty big.
Yes, this is awesome. Well, actually, you explain it because I don't have Spotify.
Okay, well.
So this confuses me. But I understand the gist. I don't use Spotify. My mom uses it. So it'd be interesting to hear her top ones. It's probably still us.
Well, I guess I'll explain. I didn't think this needed explaining, but just for the odd people who aren't on Spotify.
I'm a noob, okay?
So at the end of the year, you get your Spotify wrap, and it tells you like your top 5 artists, songs, podcasts, and just kind of like sums up like everything you listen to. And that means people get shown their like top 5 podcasts. And first person Spotify wrap came out today, Regina, sent us a message saying we were number 1 on her Spotify rap. So we were someone's #1 listened to podcast. First of all, Regina, I love you. I've been waiting for this moment. Spotify is my baby, and I was someone's #1. You just made my 2022. I'm so happy.
I love it. I think it is so sweet. I've been seeing everybody post their stories of their Spotify rap, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, but I have been seeing people's like podcasts and music, and I literally thought that too. I was like, that would be so neat if like people actually like to listen as much as we do.
I know. If we're on anyone else's top 5, if you could send a screenshot, I would really appreciate it. If this was the only one, so be it. But this I will frame this. I'm going to post this on the wall in our new office.
Yes, I love it. Perfect.
Also, I got to say, I can tell you what your Spotify rap would be.
What would it be?
#1 listen to artist, Taylor Swift. Top 5 listen to songs, Taylor Swift. #1 podcast, The Morning Toast.
How do you look at this? Let me see let's expose my mom. How do you see it?
If you just open
here.
it and it should like pop right up. Yeah, it's pretty.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's playing music. There we go. Oh my gosh.
It's like a whole like slideshow now.
It's do I skip past all this? Oh wait, yeah.
Well, you kind of like, it shows each slide, it shows you something. So you kind of have to watch it. It's a whole production.
Okay, let's see. Oh, they put it on a cover of a magazine. Let's see. This is all, I never go on Spotify, so let's see what my mom is.
You sound like such a boomer right now.
Is
the irony that like the millennial is like confused by the boomer Spotify rap. This is at certain events I never.
Oh my gosh, guys. Pretty Woman the Musical is my mom's top song. I can't go back.
That's adorable. That is holiday nostalgia, wholesome.
Oh, here. This is her top. Something to Say, Michaela Janae, Scratch by BG5. Oh, shoot. It went away.
Throwback.
Is that a throwback?
Yeah, the Bee Gees. That's like a. Isn't that like this? It's in the 60s.
Yeah, Pretty Woman the Musical is #1. Should Have Known Better by Jesse James Decker. Party Go Boom by Wizards of Oz. Mom, what are you listening
Party
to?
Goes
By Wizard of Oz? That is so confusing. Okay, well, I love it. It's my mom's running playlist. That's the only time she's a Spotify, so.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, shout out Sharon for us exposing. I love it. But let's wrap this up and peace out.
Yeah. Wrap this up by sending us your Spotify raps.
Yes.
We want to see them.
Bye.
Bye.